Imagine you're fleeing the domestic violence situation. You were exhausted, you're vulnerable, and you were just desperately searching the internet for a local service coordinator to, help you navigate the system.
Right, you're looking for a lifeline.
Exactly. A
Mm.
lifeline. So you stumble across a website for a company that claims to offer exactly that. And the CEO's bio says she's a certified life coach, and the company's motto is literally, it's right there, people helping people.
Hmm.
So you breathe a sigh of relief.
Which is the normal reaction, yeah.
Right. But then, because you're doing your due diligence, you search her name on YouTube. And the very first thing you see is this exact same certified life coach publicly calling another woman a, quote, snot-snorting, coughing up a hairball moron, and a fugly bish.
Yeah, it is the kind of whiplash that genuinely makes you question your own eyes. I mean, we are looking at a complete collision of two entirely different realities here.
So today we are just tearing into this massive stack of sources that documents, quite frankly, one of the most jarring professional double lies I think I've ever seen.
Oh, without a doubt. It's wild.
We've got a fake $5 million invoice. We have weaponized courtroom jargon, and just a fascinating look at the absolute death of the professional alter ego.
Yeah, the compartmentalization is just gone.
Completely gone. So on one side of the desk, we have Source A, right? This is the official website for the Genuine Networking Association, Inc., or GNA. It is heavily branded. It has this very polished, service-oriented veneer.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, Source B. This is a huge cache of community posts and screenshots from a YouTube channel called Turning the Page, sometimes with Tami, which is run by the exact same CEO of GNA.
And, what makes this stack of sources so compelling isn't just the sheer drama of it all, though there is a lot of that.
Not so much drama.
Right, but it's the underlying mechanism of the behavior that we really need to look at. We are essentially analyzing a real-time case study of what happens when a stated professional mission of, profound empathy completely disintegrates upon contact with the modern internet.
Yes, exactly it.
Yeah. It really forces us to ask this bigger question for you, the listener. In an era where every single late-night comment and, angry community post is permanent, does the concept of a compartmentalized professional identity even exist anymore?
Right, like, can you actually be two different people? Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the intended illusion. Source A, the GNA website.
Okay, let's look at the facade.
Full disclosure here. It appears to be built on a free Wix template. Like, it still have the promotional banner at the very top of the page.
Which, startups do that, but yeah, it sets a certain tone.
Sure, but the messaging itself is incredibly deliberate. You land on the homepage, and you are immediately hit with this incredibly warm, disarming message. Welcome to the GNA. We are people helping people.
Right, and from a psychological perspective, that phrase, people helping people, is a very classic trust-building mechanism.
How so? Like, just because it sounds folksy.
Well, yeah, in organizational psychology, we look a lot at how language is used to flatten hierarchies. So instead of saying, we are a corporate entity providing a clinical service, they are saying, we are your peers, we are just like you.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it immediately attempts to lower the consumer's defensive shields. It makes you feel like you're talking to a neighbor, not a corporation.
Which makes sense because our story section leans so heavily into that exact peer-to-peer framing. It says the organization started as a small group of friends who just realized they were more than that.
Mm-hmm. The grassroots origin story.
Right. It specifically lists the varied backgrounds of these founders to really sell it. It mentions a life coach, a fitness coach, retail workers, truckers, moms, dads, and nurses. It paints this incredibly vivid picture of a grassroots, salt-of-the-earth collective.
Which, is a highly effective narrative until you actually look at the structure of the executive team they present right next to it.
Yes. The whiplash starts early.
The grassroots, we're just moms and truckers, narrative clashes almost immediately with the extremely heavy authoritative titles they assign to themselves.
That is where the friction really started for me when I was reading through this. We get to the leadership page, and we meet Tami Hess. She's listed as the founder, the CEO, a certified life coach, and a teacher. And the site makes a very specific point to note she has a BA in secondary education.
Right, they really want you to know she's formally educated.
Exactly. And then, right alongside her is Gemma Grace, whose official title is, quote, Neurodiversity Service Coordinator.
Yeah, and we have to pause there because those aren't just job descriptions like saying you're a shift manager at a restaurant. Those are titles that carry intense societal weight.
Definitely. I mean, Neurodiversity Service Coordinator sounds very clinical.
It does, and they carry a specific promise of a duty of care. When you present yourself to the public with titles like educator, certified life coach, and especially neurodiversity service coordinator, you are establishing a psychological contract with your potential clients.
Like an unwritten rule of how you're going to behave.
Precisely. You are implicitly stating to the world, I possess the specialized training, the emotional regulation, and the ethical baseline to handle incredibly sensitive, vulnerable human situations.
Right.
The standard for your professional empathy is automatically set exceptionally high just by the very words you choose to use to describe yourself on that Wix site.
But then you scroll down to the actual services G&A offers,
Yeah.
and the whole premise just starts to feel incredibly chaotic.
Oh, it's all over the place.
First, they list general networking for businesses and customers, which, sure, the company has networking in the name. That tracks. But then it immediately pivots to insurance recruiting.
Yeah, quite the jump.
The site says they help build downlines of agents for life, health, and financial planning. Can we just pause right there for a second? Because downlines is a very specific, loaded term.
It really is. It is the defining terminology of multi-level marketing or, MLM structures.
Right. So break that down for a listener who might not be super familiar with the mechanics of that kind of industry. Why is the term downline so significant when we're looking at this professional profile?
Sure. So in a traditional sales job, your revenue comes from selling a product directly to a consumer. You sell a car, you get a commission on the car.
Simple enough.
But in an MLM or a network marketing structure, your primary revenue often comes from recruiting other people to sell the product under you. Those recruits and the people they eventually recruit become your downline.
Got it. So you're skimming off the top of their sales.
Exactly. You earn a percentage of whatever they sell. So the model relies incredibly heavily on constant recruitment of new people rather than just the direct value of whatever product you're pushing.
Right. The product is almost secondary to the recruiting.
Often, yes. So when G&A advertises insurance recruiting and explicitly talks about building downlines, they aren't necessarily offering a service to the general public to help them. They are actively looking to recruit vulnerable people into a revenue-generating structure for themselves.
Okay, so they are essentially trying to recruit insurance agents under their own umbrella to make money off them. That's category 2. But then we hit the third category of services, which is life coaching, tutoring, and insurance, where it mentions Tami is licensed to sell health and life insurance in multiple states.
It's just a salad of services at this point.
It really is. And then the fourth category. This is the one that really, truly stopped me in my tracks when I was going through the source material. Category 4 is service coordination.
Yeah, this is the big one.
The website explicitly states, quote, "From mental health to domestic violence, we can help coordinate with services to help you or a loved one in your area."
The juxtaposition there is deeply, deeply concerning from an ethical standpoint.
It's absolutely baffling. It's like, imagine walking into a dentist's office, sitting down in the chair, and seeing a handwritten sign on the wall that says, "Oh, by the way, we also do quick lube oil changes, recruit for a life insurance pyramid, and offer intensive marriage counseling."
Right, you'd run out of the office.
You would. Doesn't claiming to be an expert in absolutely everything completely obliterate your credibility in anything, especially when you're sandwiching something as life or death, literally life or death, as domestic violence coordination right next to insurance recruiting?
It absolutely dilutes credibility, but there is actually a specific psychological term for what we are seeing happening here. It's called authority stacking.
Authority stacking. Okay, what is that?
It's a phenomenon that we frequently see in unregulated coaching spaces or, online guru circles. Individuals will layer all these disparate, sometimes completely unrelated professional titles, CEO, life coach, teacher, insurance agent, coordinator, to project an unassailable image of absolute competence.
Like wearing 10 different hats so no one can tell you don't know what you're doing with any of them.
Exactly. The goal isn't necessarily to be excellent at all those things or even qualified for all of them. The goal is to overwhelm the observer with so many credentials that they just don't question the underlying authority. You just assume, wow, she does all this, she must be legit. But let me play devil's advocate for just a second here. Couldn't someone just have multiple passions? Plenty of people have a day job, a side hustle, maybe a volunteer gig they do on weekends. Is authority stacking inherently malicious?
That's a fair question. It isn't inherently malicious, no, but it becomes a massive liability when the stakes of those claimed authorities vary so wildly.
Right.
Because think about it, selling life insurance is a financial transaction. Tutoring is academic. But coordinating mental health and domestic violence services, that is a profound clinical intervention.
Yeah, that deals with people at their absolute lowest and most vulnerable.
Exactly. When you stack those things together on one website, you are asking the public to trust that the person who is trying to recruit them into a sales downline is utilizing the exact same ethical boundaries as someone managing a severe crisis intervention.
Which is a huge leap of faith.
It's a massive leap.
Yeah.
And as we see very clearly when we look at the second half of the source material, that trust is entirely misplaced. Which brings us perfectly to the digital footprint. Because if that Wix website, Source A, was the only source we had today, we might just conclude that G&A is an ambitious, if maybe slightly unfocused and chaotic, startup organization.
Right, maybe just a bit misguided in their marketing.
Exactly. But we live in 2026, and the internet always pulls the curtain back. Authority stacking only works if the audience never gets to see how the wizard actually behaves behind the curtain. So we turn to Source B, the CEO's YouTube channel, turning the page sometimes with Tami.
And this is where the diagnostic x-ray of her professional character reveals just massive structural fractures. The compartmentalization we talked about earlier, it completely fails here.
At first glance, though, there are these performative attempts to maintain that certified life coach persona. Like we have a screenshot of a community post she wrote that says, quote, Saturday's inspirational quote, turning the page isn't about forgetting the past. It's about choosing hope for the future.
Very Hallmark.
Yeah, it has the little flower emojis, the sparkles. It feels very standard issue. Pinterest board life coaching.
It does, but we really have to analyze the mechanism of why that quote is being posted. Because in the context of her broader digital behavior, which we have hundreds of screenshots of, this isn't genuine inspiration. No, it's a very classic example of toxic positivity being used as a defensive mechanism.
Okay, I hear the term toxic positivity thrown around a lot, usually meaning like people who just say good vibes only when someone is genuinely sad or grieving. How is it being used defensively here?
Think of it like spraying Febreze on a literal garbage fire.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. The underlying structure, the interpersonal conflict, the anger, the vitriol she is engaging in is actively burning and causing real damage online. But instead of putting out the fire, which would require actual emotional work, self-reflection, and de-escalation...
Which a life coach should know how to do.
Exactly. But instead of doing that, the individual just sprays this artificial, sweet-smelling aerosol over the whole mess. If anyone points out the smoke and says, hey, you are being incredibly hostile right now, the individual can point to the sparkle emojis and say, what do you mean? I am posting about hope for the future. I am a positive person. You are the one bringing negativity to my page.
Wow. So it's a way to claim the moral high ground without doing any of the actual climbing.
Precisely. It is performative professionalism. It creates this temporary buffer against their own immediate glaring behavioral contradictions.
And the sources show that buffer failing almost instantly. Because that hope for the future vibe is completely overshadowed by an obsessive, microscopic focus on petty past disputes.
Yes, the turning the page thing is incredibly ironic given how stuck in the past she gets.
Totally. There is a post where another user apparently accused Tami of taking things out of context. Now think about it. How does a trained life coach, a CEO who preaches people helping people, respond to criticism? Does she de-escalate? Does she clarify her point calmly? No. She posts a literal screenshot of a Google dictionary definition just to correct their grammar.
It's so petty.
She writes, quote, before you start telling Amy what I am taking out of context, please learn the difference between straight and straight.
The psychological mechanism at play here is fascinating to watch unfold. Correcting someone's spelling or grammar in the middle of a substantive argument is essentially the absolute lowest form of intellectual engagement.
It really is. It feels incredibly condescending, especially coming from someone whose bio emphasizes her background as a teacher.
Yes, because it is a dominance play triggered by what we call a narcissistic injury.
Okay, unpack that. Narcissistic injury.
When her authority was challenged, when someone said she took things out of context, she felt injured by that. And because she didn't have a substantive counterargument to defend her position, she shifted the entire battleground to a place where she could instantly win.
Which is stelling.
Right. By focusing on a minor typo straight versus straight, she attempts to invalidate the other person's entire argument. The implication she's making is, You can't even spell a basic word, therefore your perception of reality is flawed, therefore I am still the authority and you are wrong.
Wow.
It's a defense mechanism that completely abandons the empathy required of, say, a service coordinator for vulnerable populations.
And she exerts just a staggering amount of energy defending even the smallest perceived slights against her platforms. Like, in another post, she is fighting rumors that she hid her Rumble channel.
I saw that, just paragraphs of defense over a Rumble channel.
Yes, she posts literal Google Help screenshots detailing the site's functionality to prove that you physically cannot temporarily deactivate a Rumble channel. The sheer volume of time spent defending these minute, unimportant digital territories is wild.
It shows where her focus actually lies.
Exactly. But here's the critical pivot in the source material. Those inspirational sparkle emojis we talked about, they vanish. Almost immediately. They're completely replaced by a flood of absolute interpersonal warfare.
We move away from the Febreze and we step directly into the garbage fire. This is where the true audit of her professional behavior actually begins.
The cast of characters she is feuding with is just sprawling. We are looking at a CEO who is publicly, viciously battling a whole cinematic universe of YouTube personalities.
It's hard to even keep track of them all.
I know, I had to make a list. We have users referred to as Eli, who she also derogatorily calls Cricky Dawn, Tia, ODN, Jamie, Bill, Sarah, Bald Tires and Thorane, Riffmagos, and the actual lexicon, the specific words chosen by this certified life coach, is shocking.
The language itself is our primary data point here. It strips away all those fancy titles and reveals the raw internal emotional state of the individual.
Let me list some of the specific insults lobbed publicly by the CEO of the Genuine Networking Association. She calls users Dawn and Tia the dim-witted twins and lying bitches.
Just straight to name-calling.
Yeah. She tells a commenter to mind their own business, calling them a bish. In another post, she mocks a user who is complaining about a year-long dispute, telling them, quote, "Boo-hoo, you overly sensitive girl." And she's clearly using girl as a derogatory, infantilizing term there.
Which stands in profound contrast to an organization claiming to empower people. Using gendered terms to demean someone is a complete failure of basic professional ethics. It's misogynistic.
And it gets much darker. She writes to someone named Dawn, "I am most certainly not restreaming the snot snorting, coughing up a hairball moron."
Just visceral disgust.
She calls someone else a fugly bish. She addresses a user named Tia directly, saying she will give up drama when Tia gives up her, quote, gallons of beer.
Wow.
She attacks Eli, calling him a kept man, and goes after Dawn for allegedly receiving part of her ex-husband's retirement money.
Notice the specific nature of those last few attacks. These are not disagreements about facts or even just general insults. They are highly targeted surgical strikes at perceived personal vulnerabilities.
Let me push back on you here, though, just to be fair. Let's play devil's advocate. Millions of people have professional LinkedIn profiles where they wear a suit, and then they have chaotic private Twitter accounts where they vent or argue about politics or get into fights about sports.
Sure.
Can't you argue that her life coach persona is completely separate from her personal YouTube channel? Like, isn't a little compartmentalization normal for everyone online?
Compartmentalization is normal when it involves different facets of your interests, like being a CEO by day and aggressively debating Star Wars lore by night.
Right.
But what we are looking at here is a fundamental contradiction of core competencies. Think about it like this. The core competency of an accountant is math.
Okay.
If an accountant goes online and loudly proclaims that 2 + 2 is 5, you wouldn't trust them with your taxes, even if they were posting off the clock.
That makes sense.
The core competency of a life coach and a mental health coordinator is emotional regulation, interpersonal de-escalation, and profound empathy.
Ah. So when she demonstrates a total, complete inability to regulate her own emotions, it invalidates the professional claim entirely.
Exactly. This isn't a private venting space either. This is a public broadcast. And look at how she attacks. She doesn't just call someone a dreek and move on.
Right, she gets specific.
She targets physical appearance, calling them fugly. She targets potential substance abuse struggles, the gallons of beer comment, and she targets financial insecurity, calling someone a kept man or bringing up an ex-husband's retirement.
It's just cruel.
She is actively mining people's lives for their most painful vulnerabilities just to humiliate them publicly. You simply cannot reconcile that behavior with someone who claims to coordinate services for victims of domestic violence.
Yeah, you can't.
Because if a potential client sees that, the immediate thought is, If I cross her or if I make her mad, what vulnerabilities of mine is she going to weaponize against me?
That is a terrifying thought for someone who is already seeking help for a crisis. And the weaponization doesn't just stop at middle school name-calling either. It evolves.
Yes, it gets structural.
The sources show Tami bringing her professional CEO mindset right into the mud with her, actively attempting to weaponize the legal system to settle these YouTube beefs.
And this is a crucial escalation. It moves from mere digital incivility to the actual weaponization of bureaucracy and the courts.
The sources outline this absurdly drawn-out legal drama over what Tami literally describes as fees on the tubes.
Hmm.
Like she's mocking the very concept of the harm she's causing.
Right, infantilizing the conflict while simultaneously making it a legal issue.
This has apparently been going on for over a year, and she's constantly posting procedural updates. There is a whole saga about judges. Tami posts gleefully about civil cases being reassigned from a Judge Stacy to a Judge Rex Seidler as of July 1st. She posts her own legal assessments of, quote, plaintiff's emails regarding an expedited motion to vacate assignment.
Okay, let's break down that legal jargon real quick because she's using it very intentionally. An expedited motion to vacate assignment essentially means one party is urgently asking the court to remove the currently assigned judge from the case, perhaps due to a perceived conflict of interest or some sort of procedural error.
And Tami writes this whole public breakdown, arguing that the plaintiff is just making a procedural complaint to a former judicial assistant and can't unilaterally refuse to schedule a hearing. She taunts Eli publicly on YouTube, saying, quote, "You're adorable, Eli. Maybe someone forgot to tell you, BT, you don't run the court, little man."
Again, we see the infantilization with the phrase little man, but the broader mechanism here is what legal and psychological experts refer to as the spirit of vexatious litigation.
Vexatious litigation.
Yes. It's when the legal system is used not to genuinely right a wrong or seek actual justice, but purely to harass, subdue, or financially drain an opponent.
Because defending yourself in civil court, even against a completely frivolous claim, costs thousands and thousands of dollars.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is how she seems to revel in the machinery of it all. She is actively co-opting the language of professional authority, saying things like judicial assistance, dispositive motions, case reassignments, to legitimize what is essentially a YouTube flame war.
She absolutely revels in it. She posts a screenshot of a basic Google search about the rules of cross-examination in a jury trial.
I mean, just literally Googling how to cross-examine someone.
Yeah, and the screenshot highlights terms like cross-examine them, challenge inconsistencies, and introduce admissible impeachment evidence. She uses this screenshot to mock Eli, telling him that his written witness statements won't save him, and threatening to file motions to compel his witnesses to appear in person if the case gets beyond the dismissal phase.
By broadcasting her Google searches about cross-examination, she is engaging in a public campaign of intimidation. She wants her opponents to feel the crushing weight of the legal bureaucracy. She's essentially saying, I will use the rules of evidence and civil procedure to make your daily life an absolute nightmare.
And this legal weaponization intersects directly with her actual business, G&A, in a way that feels, frankly, incredibly legally dubious.
Oh, this part is staggering.
The sources document these ongoing copyright wars, where Tami claims rival creators are false flagging her content to, quote, silence the truth.
Right, the martyr complex.
But then she posts something wild. She notes that during a live stream, Eli mentioned that his stream is copyrighted by the GNA, by her Genuine Networking Association, and she gloats about this.
This is perhaps the most glaring red flag for any potential client of GNA in the entire source stack we have today.
She writes, and I quote, "What does that mean? It can be used in federal copyright court when if he files, because it shows that his content is under his business. He will have to file under his business. That means he will need a lawyer." She is thrilled, literally thrilled, that by dragging her corporate entity into this, she can force a YouTube rival to incur massive legal fees.
Let's just analyze the absolute perversion of the corporate structure here for a moment.
Please do.
A business entity, like an LLC or a corporation, exists to facilitate commerce, to protect personal assets from business liabilities, and to provide a good or service to the public.
Right. It's a legal container for a business.
Yes. When you weaponize your own company's copyright specifically to force an internet rival into hiring federal counsel over a petty interpersonal dispute, you have completely lost the plot of what a business is actually supposed to do. She is using the genuine networking association, not for networking, but as a literal cudgel for personal vengeance.
It's his corporate sabotage disguised as a legal defense. Which brings us to the final batch of evidence in our deep dive today. If you want to talk about cognitive dissonance, the disconnect between what she preaches and what she practices reaches its absolute peak right here.
Hypocrisy is often the most reliable indicator of a misaligned professional compass. When the rules apply to everyone but the authority figure, the authority is fraudulent.
Well, let's look at her selective empathy then. Tami calls out Eli and Dawn for doing a podcast about surviving inflation. She screenshots their video description, which talks about the genuine emotional weight of paying rent, buying groceries, paying for gas, and dealing with debt. It talks about the very real fear of working hard and still struggling to survive.
Which is a very common, very relatable struggle right now.
Extremely. Now, you would think a life coach, especially one who coordinates services, might validate those very real human struggles.
You'd hope so.
Instead, Tami publicly shames them for it. She accuses Eli of previously shaming people on government assistance, calling him a hypocrite. She posts, "Is it lonely on Hypocrite Hill, Eli and Dawn? You both are royalty there."
So the mechanism here is that she is aggressively attacking them for discussing their own financial hardship, while simultaneously attempting to claim the moral high ground of defending people on government assistance.
Yes, exactly. But then, almost in the exact same breath, she engages in the most breathtaking display of financial mockery imaginable.
The invoice.
The invoice. She creates a literal fake invoice. She takes a corporate invoice template, makes it out for $5 million, and bills it to Eli on behalf of another user named ODN.
It's wild.
And the itemized description on this fake invoice, listening to Eli cry about court, Jamie, Tami, and Bill for a quantity of, quote, months.
That fake invoice is a profound artifact of unprofessionalism. I mean, it really is.
But wait, let me challenge that because I know what some people are thinking. Isn't it just a meme? I mean, people make Photoshop jokes on the internet all the time. Is a fake invoice really that deep?
It is that deep because of the context and the effort required to produce it. This isn't a quick reaction GIF or a quick tweet.
Right.
Think about the steps. Creating a fake corporate invoice requires opening a template program, filling in the specific fields, generating a fake total of $5 million, typing out the description, and explicitly mocking someone's emotional distress, crying about court. And remember, this is the exact same court process she is actively weaponizing against him. It is a documented public display of premeditated malice. It takes time to make that.
It's performative cruelty.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like watching a firefighter intentionally start blazes all over the neighborhood just so they can stand outside and loudly criticize the people running out of the burning buildings for coughing from the smoke.
Yes.
She generates the drama, she stoked the legal fires, and then she creates fake multi-million-dollar invoices to mock the people who are stressed out by the fire she set.
That firefighter analogy is structurally perfect because it highlights the intentional creation of the crisis. She needs the crisis. And we see this cognitive dissonance play out yet again with her selective outrage in other posts.
Oh, yes. In one breath, she's creating fake invoices and calling people fugly bitches. And in the next, she's posting screenshots demanding that everyone leave a user named Sarah alone.
The whiplash continues.
She aggressively scolds the community, saying, quote, "God forbid you call her headbanger," while she is actively, viciously attacking everyone else in the exact same thread.
It is the weaponization of victimhood. She demands perfect decorum and absolute empathy when it applies to her or her specific allies, but she entirely abandons all standards of basic human decency when attacking her perceived enemies.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Exactly, which is why the digital trail is so vital for consumers to understand as we navigate 2026. Your brand is not what you write on your polished Wix website.
No, it's really not.
Your brand is not your About Us page or your carefully curated list of certifications and degrees. Your actual brand is how you behave in the comment section when you are angry, when you feel challenged, and when you think no one important is watching.
Because eventually, how they treat people in those comment sections is exactly how they're going to treat a client when a conflict inevitably arises.
Without a doubt.
If a life coach will publicly call a total stranger a snorting moron over a YouTube disagreement, how will they react if you, their client, question their billing practices?
Yeah.
or disagree with their advice.
The mask always slips. Under pressure, people revert to their baseline behavior.
So we have journeyed from this highly polished people helping people facade, offering life coaching and domestic violence coordination, straight down into the muddy, toxic trenches of YouTube drama, threats of cross-examination, and $5 million fake invoices.
It's been quite the descent.
It is a wild, chaotic ride. But this raises a massive question for me. We've operated under the assumption today that this YouTube drama is a failure on her part.
Right, a failure of professionalism.
Yeah. We are looking at this and thinking, wow, she is completely destroying her G&A networking business with this unprofessional behavior. She's ruining her reputation. But what if we have it completely backwards?
And this is the truly unsettling paradigm shift we have to consider when looking at the source material. We are judging her behavior against traditional 20th century business ethics.
Right, like don't yell at people in public.
Exactly. But we live in an attention economy now. In the algorithmic landscape of 2026, conflict is the most valuable currency there is. Outrage drives engagement, engagement drives visibility, and visibility drives monetization.
So you're saying the drama isn't a distraction from the business. The drama is the business.
We have to seriously consider the possibility that the certified life coach and the CEO of G&A titles are just an outdated cover story, an aesthetic she puts on.
Like a costume.
Exactly. What if the real business model here is simply monetizing interpersonal chaos by engaging in these sprawling year-long feuds, by weaponizing court documents, by posting incendiary insults and fake invoices? She keeps an audience hooked.
Oh, wow.
It is reality television produced in real time via community posts, and people watch it.
Oh, my God. The unprofessionalism isn't a bug, it's the feature. She isn't failing to be a life coach. She's succeeding at being an outrage farmer.
If your goal is to harvest attention, traditional professionalism is boring. It doesn't get clicks. Calling someone a dim-witted twin gets clicks.
It definitely gets people talking.
Threatening someone with a dispositive motion gets clicks. The friction of the conflict is the networking. She is building a network, just not the kind advertised on the Wix template. She is building a network of combatants and spectators.
That completely recontextualizes everything we've talked about today. The authority stacking, the toxic positivity, the legal threats, it's all just content generation. It's a terrifyingly brilliant, deeply cynical point.
It really forces us to ask, when we see professionals acting wildly unprofessionally online, are we watching a breakdown or are we watching a highly adapted survival strategy for the modern internet?
That is definitely something for you to mull over. Next time you see a polished resume, a nice blazer and a profile picture, or a website offering to fix your life, remember the digital footprint. Remember the comment sections.
Always check the comments.
Because sometimes the real diagnosis of a professional's character isn't on their About Us page. It's hiding right there in the petty drama they just couldn't resist posting. Thank you so much for joining us on today's deep dive. We'll catch you next time.